Could we see the Red Duke become a fully playable legendary lord in Warhammer 3? That's the question we ask as we take a look at the lore and tabletop abilities of the Duke and think about some possible mechanics if he were added to the game. Last week we looked at Kurt Helborg, the Reichsmarshal of the Empire, and came to the conclusion that he may not appear in Warhammer 3, as there are so many options available for the Empire. The undead also have a great number of options, but perhaps the Duke could find his way into the game. A renowned hero of Bretonnia, a selfless leader of men, and a brother to the Grail Knight, King Louis the Righteous, the Red Duke, during his mortal life, was one of the greatest defenders of the realm. He was famed across the lands for his swordsmanship, with many a man challenging him to test their skills. If they could scratch him, the Duke would reward them with a purse full of gold. No purse was ever claimed. The veteran of many perilous quests, including campaigns against the orcs of the river Grismere, and the hunt for the great dragon Gundovald, he joined the crusades against the Arabians and the Sultan Jafar, earning the name El Sif ash-Shamil, the Northern Sword. The Duke's fortune would change, though, after an assassination attempt by the Arabians, as he contracted a mysterious illness, so severe that his loyal knights decided to return him to his home in Aquitaine. There he remained bedridden for several days, with no sign of improvement. The illness seemed certain to kill the valiant Duke, but something unexpected happened, as the illness was in reality the blood kiss of the ancient vampire Aborash. He had encountered the Duke while he fended off Arabian assassins in the desert, and though the Duke fought valiantly, he was eventually overcome. Aborash, impressed by the Duke's abilities and bravery, gave the blood kiss to the Duke and returned him to his camp. The illness soon overcame the Duke, transforming him into a vampire lord, both body and mind corrupted to the point that those he had once protected became his first victims. Convinced that his brother, the king, was behind the assassination attempt, the Duke raised an army of undead and set out to kill him. The king was forced to fight his brother, and defeated him in a great battle at Seren Field. The Red Duke slaughtered a host of knights that day, his swordsmanship even greater in his undeath. Eventually he would meet his brother on the battlefield. The Duke was one of the mightiest blood knights since Aborash himself, but the king was protected by the grace of the lady, and not even the vampire could stand against her power. The Red Duke was slain by a blessed lance that pierced his heart, and the threat that he represented to the realm was ended, at least for a while. The king was aware that his brother could rise again, but he opted to bury his body in a magically sealed tomb, rather than destroy it. Centuries passed without incident, until one fateful night. A group of witches and corrupted nobles, seeking to increase their own power, broke the seals to the tomb, unintentionally releasing the vampire. The centuries that he was entombed without any nourishment had driven the Red Duke completely mad, and upon his resurrection he proceeded to wage a campaign against the whole of Bretonnia. The Red Duke led a vast army of undead once again to Seren Field, intending to defile the tomb of the Grail Knight Galand. The Duke of Aquitaine, Guilon, mustered a force to stop him, but ultimately failed, falling on the battlefield to the vampire. Though he killed Guilon, he too was injured, and confronted with the truth that Guilon was one of his descendants, and that the Grail Knight whose tomb he sought to destroy was actually his own son. The Red Duke snapped and fled the battlefield screaming incoherently, his army crumbling to dust in his wake. To this day his location remains unknown, though many knights have scoured the lands of Aquitaine in search of the vampire. The Red Duke's tabletop stats can be found in the Circle of Blood supplement, which details a series of battles between the Bretonnians and the undead. He rides into battle upon a barded skeleton steed and wears heavy armour. We should be able to take the stats of the Red Duke as he is in Warhammer 2 and transfer him across to Game 3 without any issue. The only special rule which the Red Duke uses is the Vampiric rule, meaning that he does not suffer wounds because of a destroyed general, and when not part of a non-vampiric unit, he can make march moves as normal. The Red Duke had access to 2 magic items on the tabletop, neither of which were provided to him in Game 2. The Blade of Leaping Gold is a sword he took from an Arabian emir, which he defeated in battle during the Crusades. It carries a powerful enchantment, giving 3 additional attacks in melee combat. This could be represented in-game by giving the Red Duke higher weapon strength and melee attack stats. Perhaps it would be nice to also add some bonus bound spell related to Araby in some way, just for some added flavour. The second magic item is the Armour of Blood, which is a mystic suit of armour that confers a basic save of 5+, much like heavy armour, but does not limit the Lord's magic casting abilities. Since wearing armour in the Total War games doesn't limit spellcasting ability, some other bonus for the armour would need to be found. Perhaps something related to regeneration or ward save might fit. As the Red Duke was present in Warhammer 2, we could also port across his abilities and items from there. The ability El Sif, which is a hex that reduces enemy melee defense and physical resistance, is the only ability unique to him, with other abilities being earned as standard through the skill tree. When it comes to mechanics, it's uncertain what the Red Duke might have. The undead are due an overhaul, and it would be great to see some additional mechanics based on the different bloodlines of the vampires. Perhaps the Red Duke could have something that leans into his bloodline. If I were to design some mechanics for the Red Duke, I would probably add something along the following lines. Firstly, on the campaign, I would have a mechanic where the Red Duke's more powerful knights would gain bonuses when fighting in regions with high corruption. The higher the corruption, the better the bonuses received. At a corruption level of 60% or higher, I would increase the charge bonus of knights and reduce their upkeep. At a corruption level of 70% or higher, I would give the knights additional melee attack and increase their casualty replenishment rate. When we hit 80% or higher, the upkeep reduction would increase, and I would give the knights increased weapon damage. And then at 90% or higher, I would give the knights an aura that lowers enemy melee defense by a small amount. This corruption mechanic could also apply to the Red Duke himself, and any lords under his command. The second mechanic I would give the Red Duke is a bloodlust mechanic on the battlefield. As the Lord kills enemy troops, a meter could be filled from the blood spilt. The meter would have several milestones that will trigger different abilities, or increase the Red Duke's melee stats. As the battle progresses, the Red Duke would become more and more formidable, able to summon additional units for free, and able to take on almost any foe in single combat. In Warhammer 2, the Red Duke led the faction of Mousillon. It makes sense for him to once again start in Mousillon, even though his lore does tie him to Aquitaine, as Mousillon is the Bretonnian realm that has fallen to the undead. It would be nice to see Creative Assembly add a couple of corrupted Bretonnian units for use in his army alongside the usual undead, perhaps some zombified peasants or resurrected knights of the realm, just something to make him stand out a little more on the battlefield. I would not have the Red Duke partake in the race for the souls. Instead, his campaign should focus on the destruction of Bretonnia and the establishment of a blood empire in the Old World. As the model for the Red Duke has already been created for Warhammer 2, and he made a limited appearance in that game, I think the odds are very good that we will see the Red Duke become a fully playable legendary lord in Game 3. There is effectively very little for Creative Assembly to do, just the unique mechanic, if they choose to give him one, his magic items, and some appropriate victory conditions. The Red Duke could then be released as an FLC to the community, perhaps alongside the inevitable Vampire Counts rework, giving players their first Blood Knight vampire campaign. The addition of the Red Duke should not take away from the possibility of the appearance of Neferata, as I believe that is a given at some point, and nor should it preclude the addition of a character to represent the Strigoi bloodline. So there we have the Red Duke, one of the most notorious vampires of the old world. Would you like to see him become a fully playable legendary lord? Do you think a Bretonnian-focused undead faction could work? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will leave a like or subscribe. And please don't forget to vote for who you would like to see in the next poll, or, if none of those options take your fancy, add a comment with your own suggestion. This video was brought to you with the help of my patrons, thanks to Hot Apple Pie and Solarith Magnetar. If you would also like to help out the channel, then you can check out the Patreon or become a member here on YouTube. I'm Grey Tiger, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.